This is CBC Here and Now.
In addition to specialized blood work and specimens, all COVID testing as well in the province are part of the breach at Eastern Health.
Have you had a COVID test? If so, your personal info has been compromised.
Why thousands more people are now affected by the healthcare cyber attack.
It's going to be another cold night in Labrador thanks to the wind chill. Will it warm up? Guess you'll just have to wait and see. The weather details coming up.
The province is spending $5 million to find out if we should sell off our assets.
Being informed and making the right decisions for the people of the province.
Why do we need to spend another $5 million when we already have the Premier's Green Report?
Coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We start with new information about the extent of the healthcare cyber attack.
Well, if you've had a COVID test or had lab work done by Eastern Health, your personal information may now be in the hands of hackers. The province and health authorities now say the attack has affected thousands more people than was previously thought. It also revealed that hackers also got social insurance numbers for some patients as well. Here Now's Peter Cowan is live tonight with the details in our newsroom. So Peter, we now know that more people were affected by this hack. Who's affected?
Okay, officials don't have a number of just how many people in total we're talking about, but we do know the groups. So let's break that down, first starting with the patients. We knew before if you were a patient at an Eastern, Central, or Labrador-Grenville healthcare facility, your data was taken, but now they've added on to that. They've now said if you had blood or other lab work done and it was sent to Eastern Health, then your personal information is now included. Health officials stressed today it's the information that you give at registration, like your name, date of birth, your doctor's name, your address that was taken, not the actual test results. If you've had a COVID test anywhere in the province, your registration information is now also in the hands of hackers. And for a small number of patients in Eastern, Central, or Labrador-Grenville, your social insurance number was taken. Only about 3,000 patients are affected, and more than half of those are deceased. So why do they even ask for your SIN number for patients? It turns out that was all a mistake.
Perhaps somebody may have been asked for their social insurance number when we really had no reason to collect it. And so I think there's likely some of that over when you think about going back over many years. There are likely many of those. We're still reviewing. We're not convinced that there actually is a reason or was a reason for having collected those.
Now, there are also more employees that are affected by this hack. Before they said the names, addresses, and social insurance information for employees going back 14 years was stolen. Now, if you were employed at Eastern or Central Health, it goes back as far as 28 years. They're now going to do everything they can to try and track down those former employees and offer them 5 years of credit monitoring for free. So why was personal information going back 3 decades sitting unencrypted on a server for hackers to steal? That's one of the many things that's going to be reviewed.
I think that will be part of the ongoing investigation and review to understand how this, if there are pieces of this that should have been done differently and needs to be done differently going forward. So that'll be part of the review, but I don't have an explanation for that today.
So how is the healthcare system working today? Well, we heard that only about 65 to 70% of the systems are back up and running, but there are workarounds to make sure that all the services can continue. Why the delay in getting things back? Well, hundreds of systems are being wiped and built completely from backups.
We understand how impressive it's been, the work that the folks at the Centre for Health Information have done to rebuild back our systems. And for those of us who work and lead in health systems on the operational side, we're very thankful for how quickly this has actually happened, because it's certainly quicker than we might have expected it.
Now, there are still lots of questions about the attack, like who's behind it, whether there was a ransom demanded or even paid, how did the hackers get in? Well, the Justice Minister said today those are questions they can't answer. That's either because it's still under investigation or they have the answers, but experts told them to keep it secret. He did also stress that they are doing things to improve the security of the systems, but just what exactly are they doing? Well, they're not saying that either. Carolyn?
Thanks, Peter. That's Here Now's Peter Cowan reporting live. Well, the provincial government is hiring a U.S.-based company to analyze the value of Newfoundland and Labrador's assets. The finance minister says they want an outside company to help them decide what to do with assets like the liquor corporation and stakes in offshore oil projects. Should we sell them or keep them? Here in Mark Quinn reports.
So that's what this is all about, is being informed and making the right decisions for the people of the province.
Siobhan Cody says the province is asking Rothschild & Co. to take a hard look at all of Newfoundland and Labrador's assets. The finance minister specifically named the liquor corporation, offshore oil assets like our stake in this project, registries like the province's land registry and Western Newfoundland's Marble Mountain Ski Resort. Cody says the independent report will cost about $5 million. But why hire an outside company and not have government employees do this work?
Well, certainly you want some independence, and you want to have, that kind of strategic consideration. So, those would, if we did it internally, and we do have some great expertise internally, but this gives us a broader view and an independent view.
Cody says raising some cash quickly to service the province's massive debt is one possibility, but she says the government is also thinking about the province's future.
We have a tremendous burden. We don't want to continue to burden our children and our grandchildren with this debt. So yes, that'll be a consideration, but it's more to how do we maximize the value of our assets and our opportunities in the province. And so we have engaged this world-renowned company to do that with us.
The provincial opposition party is questioning if we need another external expert report.
Why do we need to spend another $5 million when we already have the Premier's Green Report that made much of the same recommendations? And so what we're asking for is, why don't you come out and tell us what those recommendations were based on? Because clearly, in order for that report to be written, there had to be analysis done. And if that work's already been done, why do you need to do it again?
The Rothschilds & Co. report is due in March, but Siobhan Cody says it's not certain if it will be made public because it may contain commercially sensitive information. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
And now to Deer Lake, where there is community transmission of the COVID-19 Delta variant. There are currently 15 active cases in the Western Health area. Several are young children in Deer Lake. Western Newfoundland's medical officer says some of the infected people are not totally clear where they contracted the virus. 11 new cases were announced yesterday. 2 students tested positive at Elwood Elementary in Deer Lake, while there's exposure possible at Xavier Junior High and Elwood High School. Public Health is not suggesting the schools close at this point. Potential exposure at the rec complex last week means many who are too young to be fully vaccinated are now required to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Some restaurants have closed to in-person dining, while Public Health has not suggested that they need to.
They were following this very closely. One good thing that is, well, there's a few good things. One is that we have not seen anyone who has needed hospital care, and thank goodness no one who has died of COVID-19 as part of this. So we are seeing that for the most part, people do have milder illness, knowing that even people with mild illness, you can have symptoms for quite a while. So I don't want to say that that's nothing, but that has been reassuring not to see people getting really sick with the illness. But we don't want to see that either. So we do want people to take precautions. And we also have good vaccination coverage in this area.
The holidays are fast approaching, but for some people that means mental distress. How people with eating disorders feel during this season. That's just ahead.
So as you can see in that promo, there's a little bit of snow down in St. John's. Not a lot, just over 1 centimeter as of earlier this afternoon, but there is more weather on the way, excuse me. And I could have just reused the banners from last night because it's very similar to what's going on. But there is a frostbite warning in Labrador West and Churchill Falls. It's going to get very cold in all of Labrador thanks to the wind chill. And now again, a snow squall risk, and that's again for the same parts of the west coast. So that's Stephenville, Grossmorn, Corner Brook, and vicinity. That could bring anywhere between 2 and 2 and 10 centimeters of snow. Now, the big question is, it's been pretty cold all across the province for the last couple of days, not something that's uncommon in mid-December, but will it warm up for the weekend? The short answer is yes, the long answer is no, and we're going to get into all of that coming up later on in the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. A man has been found dead in the Waterford River in Mount Pearl. The RNC received a call 4:30 yesterday afternoon that a body was spotted in the water near Mary Queen of the World School. Officers responded along with paramedics. The man was removed from the river a short time later. Police haven't confirmed his age or given any further details about his identity. The Criminal Investigation Division is working with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Well, in other news, the city of Brook passed a balanced budget last night. Residential property taxes won't increase, but some commercial taxes are increasing. The city's commercial mill rate for property tax is up half a mil to 13 mils. Some businesses, like grocery stores, large retailers, department stores, banks, will see an increase, but it's frozen for tourism and hospitality businesses to help them recover from the pandemic. There's an increase that will affect most people. The water tax is going up $25 a unit. The city says it's the first increase since 2015, even though costs to operate the treatment plant have risen by 33%. Brook will increase funding for sidewalk maintenance and street cleaning, tourism, and recreation programs for the coming year. It has pegged spending at a total of $35.6 million for 2022. Well, this next story is about mental health during the holidays. For many, the season is a joyful time.
But for many others, it can be triggering, especially so for those who have eating disorders, because there's just so much attention at this time of year on food. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm reports.
The holiday season. It comes with family, parades, and food. For many, a reason for joy. But for some people like Andrea Oliver, not so much. Oliver was diagnosed with bulimia and depression in 1999.
I have had an eating disorder for quite some time. Even just going to family events on, say, Christmas Day, thinking about, how much food will be there. Will it be a trigger for me? Are people paying attention to what I'm eating, especially when they know that I do have an eating disorder? And, am I eating too much?
The holiday seasons, with their focus on food and body image and large gatherings and that, make it much more difficult for somebody with an eating disorder and can act as triggers.
Families and friends play an important part in helping people with eating disorders, regardless of whether or not they know about the illness.
Talking about food and talking about weight are things that you should try to avoid. Talk about the other reasons why it's such a great season and why you want to be together. Do activities that aren't totally related to food and aren't totally related to speaking about body image.
Your family and friends, if you do have somebody close to you, like as mine have done in the past, just let them know that you are struggling with your eating disorder, and it may take some time to adjust to the meal and things like that, and make sure that you're not being judged for it, but that you do have the support system there that can help you.
Some recommendations: choose a few people as support system, for example a family member or a friend. Try to anticipate triggering moments and plan meals. Oliver has a personal piece of advice.
Enjoy the food. I mean, the holidays are a time to reflect and to spend time with your family, and from spending 20 plus years of my life thinking about and acting in eating disorder behavior and not spending time with family and friends, you miss out on all the important things in life, and life is so short.
Paul Toomey says about 40,000 people are affected by an eating disorder in Newfoundland and Labrador. And for those people, the advice is crucial this holiday season. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, if you or someone you know needs support, you can visit the Eating Disorder Foundation website at edfnl.ca.
Or you can also give them a call at 709-722-0500.
I wouldn't say I'm more worried about Omicron than I was about Delta, but I think we definitely should be careful.
The province has given the go-ahead to get your COVID-19 booster shot, but why is it necessary?
Peter Cowan speaks to a professor of immunology about that issue. That's after the weather.
This year, we're connecting more, we're sharing more, and we're helping more. This season, whatever kind of season you make the season kind.
Time for a look at the weather, and today's weather was the kind of weather that would be nice to have on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it would be. I think some people would want
falling snowflakes.
It was, and I think it started snowing about 9:30 this morning is when I started to see the flurries fall, and they were big, fluffy flurries.
It's really pretty.
It's beginning to look a lot. No, let's not get into that. Screwed up enough last night. Let's just take a look at the high temperatures here today. And by high temperatures, they look like lows because they're not very high at all. Now, if we start in Labrador City, what we're looking at today, it was -10. I'm going to rock right past it. So it was -10 there in Labrador City, -10 in Churchill Falls, -7 in Nain. The hot spot for the island, the province, was St. John's at 4. And like Carol and I were just talking about, it was snowing for most of the day, but it was slow flurries, and it sort of happened all over the Avalon and further out west as far as probably central. I know that there were some snow squalls, or there's chance of some snow squalls out on the west coast today as well, so they could have seen a few centimeters of snow. But let's just take a look at what the future tracker has in store for the weather. Oh, sorry, messed that one up. So basically, this is what we're looking at tonight. Now, wind chill is going to play a factor here. I'm just going to back out of here. As you can see, I have 2 to 10 centimeters put in. That's because Corner Brook and vicinity, Stephenville and Gross Mourne are looking at possible snow squalls tonight, and that could bring up to 10 centimeters of snow, which I know would be very much needed at Marble Mountain, and I'm sure the people on the west coast wouldn't mind to see that much snow. And it's going to be a little bit chilly. Up in St. Anthony and up on the northern peninsula, the wind chill is going to make it it's going to make it feel a little bit colder, but that's going to only get worse or colder, I should say, as we move up into Labrador. Now, as you can see, these temperatures are already pretty low, and Environment Canada does have a risk of frostbite warning for Labrador City and for Labrador West and Churchill Falls. So you're sitting at -17, but with the wind chill, it can make it feel as cold as -28. There tonight, and I'm sure that they've seen colder. I know that I have when I lived there, but it's still pretty cold. Happy Valley Goose Bay could, with the wind chill, go down to as low as -24. Nain, -23. Even Cartwright could go down to -23. Mary's Harbor, -19 with the wind chill. So it is going to be another chilly night, but hopefully it's going to warm up in the next couple of days. I say hopefully because I know what's going to happen because I've been looking at this all day. So this is the future tracker leading us into Wednesday, and you can see there's a little bit of snow precipitation, and this will cause there's some snow to fall there on the west coast as it moves across the island towards. And this little band here could bring some snow, but it's not going to be that much. Could be rain as well. But you'll just have to keep an eye out for that. But as I can't see that far into the future because I don't have the skill set of an Ashley Brauweiler, so I can only say that it could happen. I'll know more tomorrow. So let's move in. So this is what we're going to look at for tomorrow. Now, there was supposed to be, it looked like there could be a bit of snow, but you might see maybe up here, Bonavista Peninsula, you might see about 2 centimeters of snowfall tomorrow, but it's not that significant, so I didn't even put in 2 centimeters. Because if it doesn't happen, then you can't say, Jeremy, you said 2 centimeters. And I said, well, I didn't even put it in there, so you don't know if it's going to happen. Marystown could be about the same. But as you can see, there will be flurries all day tomorrow as well. Excuse me. Now let's move into central Newfoundland, and you might see a little bit of the sun in Harbour Breton, but otherwise it's going to be sort of cloudy and flurry-like all across the island. Now, excuse me, I'm so sorry about that. So basically, we're looking on Port aux Basques, Stephenville, Corner Brook, and Gross Mourne. They're going to get some snow overnight and into tomorrow that will bring possibly 2 to 4 centimeters of snow. Again, nothing that they're not used to. And if we move up into the northern peninsula and Labrador, the sun will come out. There will be a little bit of cloud cover, but for the most part, it's going to be a regular mid-December day that the folks up there are most likely used to. So as we move across in, it'll get a little bit colder as we move into Happy Valley Goose Bay, Churchill Falls, Labrador City, and Nain sitting at -12, -12, -11. But it's hopefully, if everything stays according to what Environment Canada says, it's probably going to warm up and those temperatures will be still negative, just be lower into the negatives. So this is what's going to come into Thursday. Now, as you can see, there will be some cloud cover on Thursday, but if I stand back, let's not worry about this right now. We'll worry about that later. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But it is going to be Thursday's going to be a pretty clear day, but you know, we're going to get into that in more detail in the next weather hit coming up later on the show.
used to be that 2 shots were enough, but this week the province is now encouraging people to get a 3rd dose of the COVID vaccine. So why is this needed, and how well will it protect from the new Omicron variant? Well, Rod Russell is a professor of virology and immunology at Memorial University. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I know a lot of people are already thinking, okay, I stepped up, I got my 2 shots, I was told that was fully vaccinated, I should be good. Why are we now saying you need a 3rd dose?
Yeah, so there's 2 things. One, we saw, as we've talked about in the past, we saw very early on that we do see waning of the immunity after about 6 months. And that's really looking at the levels of antibodies in people's blood after six months post their 2nd injection. So we know that there's an increased chance of getting infected. We know that the vaccines don't prevent people from getting infected, or at least not everybody. And we know that people can get infected after 6 months. We already knew that. Now what we're seeing is that with the Omicron variant, it looks a bit worse. So it's that number may, and this is very early results, it might be as little as 3 months now that you can get infected after your 2nd dose with the Omicron variant. So basically the antibody levels go down. Keep in mind, you still have your memory T cells, your memory B cells. There's a response there that will help you against Omicron. But the idea is that we lose enough immunity to keep us from getting actually infected with Omicron even faster than we did with Delta.
So how worried are you about the Omicron variant and that reduced protection that we seem to be getting from the 2 shots?
The Omicron variant, like any variant, we have to look at the three questions, right? Does it spread faster? Does it affect how the vaccines work against it? And does it make you sicker? So we're seeing answers to these questions. We know it spreads faster. We know it spreads probably 3 times faster than Delta. And as we've just talked about, we know that it definitely has the mutations associated with Omicron definitely have an effect on how well the vaccines work against it. The big question is, how sick will it make you? So will it make you sicker than previous variants? Will it make you sicker than Delta did? And originally there was, this idea coming out of South Africa where most cases were mild. And I think everyone's heard by now that, this may be a mild infection, so it spreads faster, but it doesn't make you as sick. Now, just as of yesterday, I've seen colleagues that I know and trust in the media talking about how this might be a myth. And the reason is because we know that people in South Africa, we know that a very small portion, maybe as low as 7% of people, haven't either been vaccinated or been infected. So there's actually pretty broad immunity in South Africa now against COVID or against SARS-CoV-2. So the mild cases might be because everybody has immunity. So the problem is we don't know now what Omicron is going to look like in a population of unvaccinated people. And we still have 20%, for the most part across Canada, about 20% of our population is still unvaccinated. So I wouldn't say I'm more worried about Omicron than I was about Delta, but I think we definitely should be careful, and we definitely shouldn't, not be careful right now or not be cautious because we've heard this story about it being a mild infection, because it might turn out that it's not a mild infection, at least in unvaccinated people or in people who've had their shots 6-8 months ago and haven't had a 3rd shot yet.
Is it going to be 3 and done, or is this a chance that, we may need to every 6 months or a year keep coming back and getting these booster shots?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 3 and done. I don't think there's going to be a one-size-fits-all for everybody. I'm expecting now that older age groups are probably going to need regular boosters, because if we keep seeing this waning, which we will, right, your antibody levels are always going to go down. They're not always going to stay where they were 3 or 4 weeks after your 2nd shot or 3rd shot or your last shot. So I think we're always going to see this waning immunity, and that's going to result in breakthrough infections in some vaccinated people. So you might see a situation where older people might need more boosters than younger people, or immunocompromised people for sure will need more boosters than people with intact immune systems.
The one thing we can almost say for certain is that a year from now we are going to have a whole lot more information, and things will probably be a whole lot different than we expected. So Rod Russell, I appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your insights.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I didn't necessarily recognize the physical and psychological trauma and pain that I would experience even 3 years later.
But now she's channeling that trauma and turning it into wearable art.
And passing on the proceeds to a group that once supported her. That story just ahead.
Well, now to a complicated story about giving back. First, a warning though, this story does deal with sexual assault and some viewers may find it triggering. Anna Murphy says she's still living with physical and psychological trauma after being sexually assaulted by a cab driver 3 years ago. The province's Sexual Assault and Crisis Prevention Centre has played a crucial role in her recovery, and now she's giving back. Murphy runs Yellow Rose and makes hand-dyed and printed clothing in downtown St. John's. And she's donating all the proceeds from her latest design. Here's her story.
I have created a block print design that is a heart surrounded by flowers, and in my handwriting it says, "No means no." I wanted to create a design that highlighted consent, and for me, no means no is an easy message of consent that I think people recognize. The Heart with Flowers just felt like a journey with people who are working through sexual assault. Their whole heart is on the table when they're talking about it and going through things. And I also wanted to use flowers because I felt like flowers are something that are kind of growing back and each year and having a rebirth, which was important to me to include in that message. 3 years ago this year, I was beaten and sexually assaulted by a taxi driver in St. John's. That journey has been more difficult than I think I would have realized before this experience. I didn't necessarily recognize the physical and psychological trauma and pain that I would experience even 3 years later. And I am someone who is so fortunate because I have amazing supports in my life and I have had privilege to have access to resources that I can reach out to. And I recognize that not everybody has that on their journey, and it's so critical to begin the healing process. I'm raising money for the Newfoundland and Labrador Sexual Assault Crisis and Prevention Center. 100% of the proceeds from the sale of our No Means No shirt will be going directly to them. They have many incredible resources for sexual assault survivors, people experiencing assault in their life, and also people who are looking to support those survivors. I personally have used their warm reach out line many times when I was in spaces of crisis, and it's really valuable to have people who you can talk to in a non-judgmental space that also understand what you're going through, because as much as your loved ones and your supporters want to help you, they don't necessarily understand what you're going through, and they are so well-meaning in all of their love and support, but sometimes they just don't know what you need. When people are wearing the shirt, I want them to feel like they are making a statement in support of sexual assault survivors, in support of consent and having comfortable conversations around consent, which is incredibly important. And I also want them to feel a sense of community in people who are supporting us and also supporting the journeys that we have to walk. I continue to have difficult days when I question my purpose and how much longer I can exist in the pain that this has caused, or small things that seem so normal to people, like a doorbell ringing or a person coming too close to you when you're walking downtown with your friends. Small things that I never considered before, always locking the doors. Those are things that now have become so scary to me, and I never imagined that any of this would come from what happened. I will say though that even though the hurt doesn't change, the periods of time between these episodes has really grown, and that's something that I find hope in for the future, because I hope that eventually those lengths of time will grow and grow and I will have an easier time. But in any form of grief, it always hurts. It's just how often you feel that pain.
A strong story. Thanks to Here Now's Katie Breen for putting that together. Developing story now, some breaking news. We have an update for you from the RNC on the death of 2 people in Conception Bay South on Friday evening. Police say the death of a 46-year-old woman at home on Windy Cove Lane is now being treated as a homicide. The RNC says a 46-year-old man found in the home died by suicide, and there is no further concern for public safety. The investigation continues, and anyone with information about this is asked to contact the police or Crime Stoppers.
Well, today marks 40 years since the Dana Bradley murder. The then 14-year-old went missing on December 14, 1981. Bradley was last seen hitchhiking on Topsail Road when she was picked up by a man in a four-door sedan. 4 days later, her body was found in the woods off Maddox Cove Road. In 2016, police said they had a breakthrough in the case with new DNA evidence. At that time, police say they were using it to eliminate suspects and clear tips. Today, police had this to say.
The RCMP in Newfoundland and Labrador remains active in investigating this murder case with a designated team from the RCMP Major Crimes Unit who routinely review the investigation and action any new information that may be received. The RCMP continues to receive tips as well on a routine basis, and each one of those is thoroughly investigated. So 40 years is a very long time to have passed, but the loss of a loved one for 40 years still remains the same. As a parent, to lose a child, that pain has not eased for Dana Bradley's family, and we would love nothing more than to be able to bring the person responsible to justice. Anyone who has any information, no matter how insignificant it may seem, please report that to us so that we can investigate it.
And we do have a statement from Dana Bradley's parents. Tonight, they're thanking all of those involved with the 40-year investigation and hope advances in DNA technology will help bring justice for their daughter. They say, "We can only hope that the feeling of shame in what her killer has done has plagued him with a life filled with worry and fear at being found out, leaving him to constantly look over his shoulder, awaiting the hand of knowledge in his guilt to land on his shoulder."
So you're looking at the 4 signatures of the premiers of the Atlantic provinces. This is an agreement that they came to last week. Fairly general agreement, but it's about trying to work better together when it comes to getting doctors to work in the provinces. And it says here that provinces will collaborate in the recruitment and retention of physicians, nurses, and other health professionals now working outside the Atlantic region. Joining me now is Susan McDonald. She's president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Medical Association. So what do you make of this agreement overall?
I don't know what it means, to be honest. We were not involved in any part of this, so it sounds like it's a very general type of statement that they want to work together, and I would agree that's always a great idea when people prefer to collaborate rather than work against each other. But the devil's going to be in the details. What does this actually mean? Does it mean we create the same working conditions, that we have the same type of contracts? Does it mean that we have an agreement not to poach from each other? I don't know what it's going to mean.
Well, see, that's the reason I really want to talk to you, because if it comes to making some jurisdictions more attractive than others, wouldn't this kind of thing be good news for doctors and your organization, in that you've criticized this place for not being as welcoming as other provinces?
Right.
Wouldn't this have to up our game if they actually work together?
It would. If it means that they're trying to collaborate in such a way to create an even playing field. And then physicians would be able to choose what jurisdiction they wanted to work in, knowing that they were going to be paid the same amount of money and have the same perks. For example, things like pension and restriction on how much call they could do and that kind of thing. But what you have to remember is that Newfoundland is a bit different from our Atlantic province neighbors, in that we have areas of rural and remote places that are far more rural and remote than anything that you would ever find in Prince Edward Island or Nova Scotia or New Brunswick.
Like Labrador, for instance,
For
always
Labrador,
a special case.
yeah, St. Albans, places off the Trans-Canada where it's a couple of hours by car and maybe no cell service until you get there. And those kinds of places are much harder to recruit and then retain physicians than your average place. So Newfoundland and Labrador is always going to have a little bit of an extra issue or challenge to get people to come and stay in those places, regardless of what kind of agreement we have.
But isn't that just sort of basically about, show me the money? I mean, if you're going to ask anybody, whether it's a doctor or any other professional, to work in a remote place that doesn't have all the advantage of a city, other than finding someone who loves that kind of place, other than money, what other levers do you have?
Well, there is more than money. Money, of course, is right at the top. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
People have been going to Alberta for years from Newfoundland because of the money. They could get the same job here, but it paid far, far better.
Yeah.
So sure, people do that for money. But there's also things for physicians that are really critically important. One is not being on call all the time, so that you need to have an environment where there's other colleagues to work with, so that you are not constantly being inundated at the grocery store while you get your gas, that kind of thing.
Just one last question I'd like to ask you. It has to do with this recent meeting that was had that I think has a bit of controversy with respect to the health minister and how people said they felt doctors didn't feel respected. As we head into 2022, is it possible to get beyond what seems to be a difficult relationship with the current health minister?
I'm always hopeful. I guess I'm a glass half full sort of person, and I do believe that most people have their heart in the right place and they will do the right thing. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of a roundabout way of getting there. At the basic level, the people of this province deserve a good healthcare system, not a subpar health system, but a good healthcare system. And we are able to provide that. We've got all the right ingredients. We just have to put together the recipe and make the cake to make it work. I think the health minister is able to do that. And I think with time, perhaps, that he will really pay attention and do the right thing in creating a healthcare system that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians can be not only feel safe in, but can be proud of.
All right, Dr. McDonald, I have no doubt we'll be speaking again in 2022. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Well, some potential good news in the battle against COVID-19. Pfizer says its new antiviral pill can help prevent severe cases of the disease. The drug maker also says it's effective against the Omicron variant.
We need therapeutics and we need them badly. Most of our therapeutics are geared to hospitalized individuals. This is a fantastic product because number one, it's a pill. It's not an infusion. You don't need any fancy schmancy setup to get an IV in. It's just a pill. And number two, it keeps people out of hospital.
If taken within 3 days of becoming symptomatic, Pfizer says the drug reduces the risk of hospitalization and death by 89%. Given within 5 days, the reduction was almost as significant at 88%. Pfizer Canada submitted the drug for approval by Health Canada back on December 1st. The submission is now under review. Well, to Toronto now, where police say they have a possible suspect in the 2017 killings of a billionaire couple. 75-year-old Barry Sherman and his 70-year-old wife, Honey, were found dead in their home. Sherman was the founder and chairman of a major drug company, and the couple were well-known members of Toronto society. Almost 4 years into the investigation, this is the first time detectives have said they have a suspect in the Shermans' deaths. And here is that suspect. This video was taken 2 days before the Shermans were found dead in their home. Police say this is the only person seen on security camera footage that detectives haven't been able to identify and exclude from the investigation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back with a story about one of my favorite animals. Wildlife rehabilitation centers in several provinces are seeing a spike in the number of snowy owls who need help.
Yes, the regal birds have been landing themselves in all kinds of trouble on their annual migration south. The CBC's Bonnie Allen has more.
A head-on collision between a snowy owl and a van last week near Regina. The majestic bird was embedded in the vehicle's grille, but shockingly, still alive. She was taken to a wildlife rehabilitation center for treatment.
She's lucky in that she doesn't have any fractures, but she does have a very serious concussion. She's very healthy otherwise, so we're hoping that she recovers quickly from the concussion and we can get her back to the wild.
Rehabilitation Director Megan Lawrence feared the worst, though.
We've had a lot of snowy owls come in already in the last couple of weeks that have been hit by vehicles. There seems to be an abundance around the city. Unfortunately, the other 6 that we've gotten have all had very catastrophic injuries and have had to be put down.
Other wildlife centers are reporting a similar spike in snowy owls. Wild North in Edmonton has received 15 injured snowy owls in just 2 weeks, a record number.
Migrating from the far north, making their way down to sort of southern Canada and the northern U.S.
The journey south from the Arctic tundra can be treacherous, but as to why there are so many injured snowy owls this year, so far no one can say for sure. One theory is a shortage of small rodents in some places has made snowy owls desperate as they hunt.
Sometimes they get so focused on their prey, they zoom right in on it. They're just soaring across the road. They won't even notice that there's a truck or a car coming towards them.
But this wildlife center northwest of Calgary is busy with all kinds of injured owls. The manager suggests more people are rescuing them.
People are at home more and finding more injured wildlife and just spending more time outside as well.
As for the owl who took this hit,
so we gave her an anti-inflammatory medication to help with any brain swelling, the concussion.
She's eating well, getting stronger, and could soon take flight. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan.
Thank goodness that owl is okay.
Like, how do you top that?
Whoa.
Come on, Jeremy, tell us some weather.
My heart broke when I saw it.
Snowy owl stuck in the grill of a car.
But it's okay, so that's good. It's a happy ending, so.
Yes, it is a happy ending. And now, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat and try to come up with a weather forecast to beat the snowy owl in the grill of a car. So I just wanted to show these temperatures real quick because somebody was chirping me on Twitter saying that -28 with a wind chill isn't cold. And you're right, it's not, so I apologize. But I did want to point out, for Labrador West, it's not cold. I know. I lived there for a bit. Anyways, I just want to point out, do you see the moon? I just noticed this. The moon is there. Anyways, these are your temperatures for tonight, but we're moving on past that. Just like the snowy owls moving on with their life after getting out of the front of the grill of that car. So basically, this is the future tracker. So as we said, Thursday is going to be pretty, I guess not clear, but there's going to be no precipitation. But it is going to be a little bit of cloud cover, and you're going to see it here now as the future tracker rolls. So it's going to, but as you can, I'm going to hide, see, I was trying to hide that part. But as you can see, there is a band of precipitation that's going to move its way into Labrador, into Thursday and into Friday. But, Thursday into Friday as well, as you can see, it is on repeat there. But it is looking like a pretty clear day for much of the province. I keep saying clear, but it's not. I mean, clear is that there's no flurries. There's no rain. We're all good. So it's clear for us. So now, the look ahead. Anthony laughs when I say stuff like that, and it makes me laugh, and it's really hard. It's really difficult, Anthony. I'm a professional. So -6 in St. John's is what we're looking at, -7 in Labrador City, Wabush as well, -13 in Nain. It's going to be 0 in Port aux Basques, -10 in Cartwright. And that's what we're looking forward to come Thursday. Now, there goes. So I was going to say, is it going to be nice on the weekend? Yes and no. So this is the no part. Friday it's going to warm up, but there is a chance that there's going to be precipitation. As you can see, it's blue up here, so that's going to mean there's possible snow, and we're going to see some snow and rain there across the island into Friday night. But let's just take a quick look at some of our long-term temperatures, and I'm just going to walk out of the frame there to make Gary, the director, happy. So in St. John's, what we're looking at is, as you can see, it's going to warm up a little bit. It'll make more sense when we move further north, but -6, 2 degrees on Friday and 2 degrees. So it is warming up, but there is going to be some snowfall, a chance of flurries, chance of some rain. And as we move into central Newfoundland, as you can see, those temperatures are going to go on the plus side of 0, which is always a plus. But as you can see, we'll be looking at 2 on Friday, 0 there on the west coast, and then 2 and 1 on Saturday. And then Sunday, all across the province, it's just going to dip down. There's not really much that we can do about that. So as we move up into Labrador there, in eastern Labrador, look at those temperatures. And I know for people who live there, it's not cold, but seeing those numbers on this side of things makes it look like it's pretty cold. But even there, as you can see, look at Friday in Labrador, in western Labrador, it's 0 degrees. In eastern, -2, and then Saturday it'll get a little bit chillier in Labrador West. So it will warm up Friday a little bit and Saturday, but then the temperatures are all going to dip as we move our way out of the weekend and into the next week. Now, I did manage to get a viewer photo of the day in, so let's take a quick look at that.
Oh, very nice.
That is quite beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So, can you guess where it is? Do we play that game anymore? No, I guess not.
Okay.
It's hard. But it's I think Eugene Howells, a regular contributor, sent this in.
This is Bonavista area. Port Rexton? No.
Greats Cove.
Greats Cove.
So he said historic and it's windless. So, which is a rarity.
Windless.
Windless? Lack
Windless.
of wind? Huh. Is windless a word? Or
I think, yeah, it's a word.
Now I'm starting to doubt myself.
I didn't know there was any place in Newfoundland that would be called windless.
Maybe it was just a moment where there was no wind. But anyway.
Okay, I gotcha.
God, it's hard. I was better than last night. Let's just say that, okay?
Did a great job.
Thank you, Carolyn. You're always a supporter of mine.
As am I.
Yeah, you are.
I laugh with you.
Oh, I can't get COVID. I can't get too close yet. Anyways, I'm going to get in trouble for that.
Okay, well, thanks for watching.
Good night.
See you tomorrow.
I'll be taking...